It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Welcome to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. I got a special treat for you today. I got a story about, it's a love story. Yeah, the Sam Lesante Show is going to talk about a love story today. Great couple. It's a story that I think you're going to really enjoy. It's something that I think you're going to be able to think about and just, think about life, what it means, etc. My couple, the couple on the show today is Dr. Ralph and Leon and Betsy Leon. It's a couple's, there's a couple, a love for God, love for one another and for their child. It's an interesting story. I want to welcome the both of you on the Sam Lesante Show.
Thank you so much.
So before I tell them any more, Betsy, Ralph, you're a family physician, right?
That is right.
And you have 9 wonderful children, right?
Yeah.
9, God bless you, okay. Betsy, okay, so when you were pregnant, you were diagnosed with congenital anomaly, okay?
Correct.
So I'm going to refer to the good doctor now, and doctor, what does that mean?
So about 14 weeks into the pregnancy, we were given the option to be able to do some genetic testing based on Betsy's blood to find out what the risk was that there might be anything wrong, because we are an older couple, and the older you get, the greater the risk that the genes that would be normally in a normal healthy baby would be abnormal. And so the term congenital means from basically conception. Anomaly is a medical term for just an abnormality. And in this case, we were told that there was an 87.8% statistical probability that John Paul Raphael would have a condition known as trisomy 18. The most common one for older couples is trisomy 21 or Down syndrome. And a lot of people know Down syndrome babies because they tend to live into adulthood. But the other two less common conditions, trisomy 18 and trisomy 13, are generally considered life-limiting because the babies frequently die, sometimes before birth, but shortly right after birth. And so that was what we were facing at about 14 weeks into the pregnancy.
So as a doctor, okay, a family physician, what were your thoughts at that time?
First of all, I knew that statistics are just that, and that even though these tests are pretty accurate, there was still a hope and a chance that they would be incorrect. But more importantly for us, because I've been a practicing pro-life doctor for going on 20, 30 years, I knew that for me and for Betsy, it wasn't going to change our management. In other words, we were blessed with a gift from God through this pregnancy, and regardless of the outcome, we were going to follow this pregnancy to its completion and welcome our baby with our hope that at least we would be able to see John Paul Raphael alive. I know, unfortunately, in our world, there are other options, and they were offered to us immediately, but as soon as we told them that that was not an option for us, we were very thankful that nobody brought that back up again throughout the rest of the pregnancy.
So the fact that you had that strong faith, okay, I mean, because I don't know how many couples would, if they knew they were going to have it, they said incompatible with life, okay, a child, they would probably have taken the route of an abortion, okay? But your faith, okay, was that strong that you used a word that I keep on using all the time about a gift from God, you know. The Baltimore Catechism always says, who made you? And the answer is not your husband, it's God made you. It's a creation from God, okay? And I think many, many, many millions of people do not understand that. I think you understood that, okay? So you got this news, all right? So Betsy, okay, well, you hear the news. How do you feel?
There was a long period of being stunned and shocked, and we knew it was a possibility. Once I found out I was pregnant, knowing our age, we understood that we might be looking at this news. But we already loved this baby. You know, we got married later in life. We wanted to see that love manifest in a child, but our lives were really busy and overwhelming. We do have 9 other children. So we were not trying to conceive, but we weren't doing a very good job of not trying to conceive either. So we were thrilled when I was pregnant, and our faith was strong, and that completely formed us. What was so strong also was our love for each other and our immediate love for our child. That was the overarching principle that carried us through the whole pregnancy, was this real sense of this is a real child, a gift. From the second we saw his heart beating at 6 weeks on our very first ultrasound to every other moment we saw him, there was just that love for him and a yearning, a longing to see that in our arms. So even after we got the news, the human emotions were very strong. There was grief, there was processing, there was anger, there was frustration, there was helplessness, there was everything you can imagine when you get that kind of suffering. But our faith taught us that through the suffering, there is love. And maybe because we have 9 other children who are healthy on the outside, but they're equally imperfect in other ways, and we love them unconditionally. We were prepared from the very beginning to love him unconditionally, no matter what his life presented us.
Ralph, what developed you to have the strong faith that you have?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm not sure that my training or experience strengthened my faith as much as I'm very thankful to be a cradle Catholic. I mean, my parents were both Catholic and I was raised through it. I went to a Jesuit high school, I went to Georgetown University, so my faith has carried me through a lot. I actually saw a lot of tragedy in my training, particularly during obstetrics. I mean, I think a lot of people always think it's a beautiful experience and everybody's got great outcomes, and that's not the case. So I think that my faith sustained me through a lot of that tragedy, and what I really learned to appreciate was the need to comfort people in their sorrow, whether it's a fatal diagnosis such as cancer or a sudden tragic accident where someone was here today and gone tomorrow. And for me, that faith has just continued to get strengthened throughout that. And I try and pass that on to those who are grieving.
What do you think would happen if you didn't have that faith when this thing came along with your wife? And she didn't have a faith either.
Yeah, we actually talked about that a little bit, in the sense that I think it's the people who don't believe there's something bigger than us or something bigger and better beyond this world in our lives. And that leaves people, I think, just sad, because then they know that all they've got left is their own frailty and their limitations, and do the best that they can, not trusting in a greater being bigger than us, and then making those decisions alone without a guide, and then potentially regretting the decisions they've made because they don't have that guidance from above to help them get through those decisions.
If you didn't have a faith, okay, and you didn't have that strong love for God, what do you think would happen with you, Betsy?
Well, there is such uncertainty in the path that we went through. There is so much uncertainty when you're given a poor prenatal diagnosis. It's just your mind spins. What is this child going to look like? What is this child going to go through? What's going to happen to me? How can I have a baby die in my arms? Like, there's so much fear. And when that fear and that uncertainty is the loudest voice that you hear, you can make decisions that you might not otherwise make. I have been pro-life as long as I can remember, and carrying John Paul was, we never once thought pro-life, pro-choice. We just loved him. But this challenging pregnancy has given me a compassion for women that don't have the foundation, the substance, and the support. Because living in that uncertainty and that fear without that grace and strength is incredibly painful. It was brutally painful with the grace, support, and faith that I have.
Imagine, yes.
So I have a newfound compassion for being in that place and having loud voices telling you this is the better way. But the thing I would really most want to communicate that I have found so amazingly to be true is that the love of your baby is enough. that these women need to let themselves love their babies.
How anyone in the medical field could get up in the morning knowing they're going to go to Planned Parenthood and actually abort little babies, okay, and think nothing of it. You know, and we're going to do a show, we're going to show these unborn babies, okay, and we talk about life, and it's sad, you know. I just often wonder, how can you then go home and see your children or grandchildren, and knowing that tomorrow I'm going up and aborting more? How does anyone in the medical field do that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
if someone, it's like, well, this is my work, this is my business, okay? But you're talking about a human life that you are now going to destroy, okay? Which to me is, it's mind-blowing. I just can't fathom it. I want someone to say to me, and I invited Planned Parenthood on this show many times, and all those pro-life people, okay? We have Catholics, my friend. We have Catholics who believe in pro-choice. I mean, when you talk about where we're really going, it's really sad. I'm talking to Betsy and Dr. Ralph Leon. Folks, they lost a child. He lived 28 hours and 10 minutes, all right? And the stress, the challenges of keeping a child because they had a faith, okay? And it's an interesting story. If you didn't have that love, if you didn't have that faith, where would they be today? Where would you be today for those people who feel it's okay to rip little arms and crush little heads? I don't understand it. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show. Folks, remember, 24/7 you can watch all of the shows we produce. Download the app. Search SSP TV. Just download our app. If you have a YouTube, download YouTube, search SSP TV, subscribe, doesn't cost you a penny, and you can watch all of our shows anywhere in the world. I have friends of mine in Peru who watch our shows. Today I have a wonderful guest on, a show that I really like doing. It's a story about a couple who were in love, still in love, and went through a challenge in their life. Their child, they were told that the child had a congenital anomaly, which is incompatible with life. Dr. Ralph Leon is a family physician. His wife, Betsy, is a great singer, I understand. And so you went through these challenges, and so what was it like? I mean, I can't imagine the stress and the challenge, okay? Just what was it like?
The uncertainty was really brutal because we opted not to have an amniocentesis, which is the only way to definitively confirm that John Paul had trisomy 18. The procedure carries an inherent risk to the baby. We knew it would not affect the outcome of our decision, so we opted not to. So we were given an 87.7% chance that he had this, but there was still that window of hope.
Sure.
So we walked two paths. We walked a path of praying for a miracle every day, believing in the hope of a powerful God who loves us and loves our baby more than we do. And we also lived a path of calling funeral homes and preparing and researching and understanding what is it going to be like to give birth to this baby that we love with all our heart and watch him die in front of us, because that's what we had to accept could happen.
So here's what you hear then, you know, for the naysayers. Well, you see, Sammy, Catholic couple, they go to church, they pray. Look what God did to them. Look what God did to them. Okay, so don't tell me about being good and going to church and say, I'm going to go play my golf games and I could care less about going to church. I mean, look what God did to you, two beautiful people, raise a family, live your faith, okay? We're all sinners. There's no question about that. So how does that make you feel?
You know, that's the question where I'm starting to tear up, and not because I'm sad, but because God gave us the most amazing gift. Our pregnancy was an invitation. Our baby was an invitation to a way of loving and living that we wouldn't have had if we had not accepted his life. John Paul Raphael brought us the most amazing joy. This joy of his perfect presence, this joy of our family, and we held him, and it was just this holy, pure, transformational gift. And he left us a legacy, which was to let yourself be loved. And that is a treasure. I mean, we have grief, we miss him every day, but God gave us an invitation. It wasn't a curse, it wasn't a punishment. It was a gift.
Well, to me, it's a great celebration.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
told you that before because you have a saint in heaven.
Yes.
Okay, and that's fantastic. I see you have a blanket.
We do. This was John Paul's blanket.
I sort of figured that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lived wrapped in this blanket for 1,690 minutes, and I don't carry it everywhere, but we carry it a lot because it gives me a lot of comfort to feel him close.
Yeah. He also had a little duck.
He did, a little yellow ducky.
We're going to show the picture, Sam. I want you to show the picture of the duck. So tell me about this duck.
When I was pregnant, I needed to do something to acknowledge this child early in the pregnancy, knowing I could still miscarry, knowing this was not a sure thing. So I went out and I bought a cute little yellow ducky, and I cried, and it was just our sign of, this is a gift, this is our child, and we're going to celebrate him with this cute little toy.
And who has the duck now?
Our youngest daughter, Claire. She sleeps with it every night. She loves John Paul probably even more than we do. She's a beautiful big sister.
I can't imagine the challenge, can't imagine the stress. And all I could imagine is the fact that you had that strong faith and you practice your faith, okay? And here again, I'm not pushing Catholicism. I'm just saying no matter what a person's faith is, they should practice it because you need it. Bishop Timlin always says to me, you know, these people that think that the world is, they're doing great and they got their jobs and the SUVs and the country clubs, et cetera, they don't do, that's fine until they hit that little bump in the road. And when you hit that bump in the road, it's like, oh boy, you know, and that's the good part. God's very forgiving, which is fantastic, okay? And I asked you this question before, Betsy and Ralph. What do you want people, our viewers, to get from this show?
To not be afraid that these little babies that are in our bodies, in my body, like they have a message for us and they have a purpose and meaning to their life. And it may seem impossible. It may seem impossible to change your life to welcome this baby or to put your body through what it has to go through or to accept the limitations that this child may bring. But if you can push through that uncertainty and the fear and the suffering, there is a level of joy and love on the other side that is truly supernatural, and that is totally worth it. Like his life was so worth it, and we've said we would do the whole thing over again, even knowing we only got 28 hours and 10 minutes, and we would have to watch him die in our arms again and bury him again just for that joy, because we still have that. We have peace in the decisions we made. We have peace that his life unfolded in the way God intended it to, and we have the joy and the love for our son.
Well, I applaud you for that. I'll take a break. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. If you just tuned in to the Sam Lesante Show, I highly, highly recommend get our app, search SSP TV, or download your YouTube and search SSP TV. We're talking to a lovely couple, Dr. Ralph and Betsy Leon. So your child, when you were pregnant, at what age was, or how many weeks were you told what, Ralph?
So at about 14 weeks, Betsy had a blood test done, and through the genetic testing, we were told we had pretty close to a 90% chance that the baby would have trisomy 18. And we were aware from that get-go that about 90% of babies with trisomy 18 die before they're born and don't live very long after they're born. And that's what we were facing.
And Betsy, you had the option at that time, okay, to abort the child, okay? But why didn't you abort that child?
We loved him already. We wanted him. We had a place for him in our hearts and in our home and in our lives. And it didn't matter what imperfections or how short his life was going to be. We desperately wanted him to be born alive. And we are so thankful we had that miracle. We prayed for a miracle of total healing, but we got many other miracles instead.
Doc, I want to ask you a question. I'm told by people that saying, well, Sam, it's easy to say, but these young people, the young girls who get pregnant at 14 to 15 years old, who's going to take care of these kids? You know, so, and it's unfortunate because they have their abortions when they're young, 16, whatever, and as they get older, then it starts to work on them, okay? And that's where we don't hear Planned Parenthood talking about the psychological problems. How do you answer that?
Well,
how would you answer that?
it's not easy because, again, if they either don't have faith or weren't raised in a faith, if they don't have a belief in a supreme being who's going to take care of them, and they feel like all they've got is their present situation, no one to mentor them or to let them know they are loved, I think they're easily swayed by the easy way out. Being told this will be better for you, not realizing what the long-term consequences are. And I would encourage anybody who's in that situation, however young, to make sure they get all of the options and to know that there are tremendous support groups, prenatal programs that are funded to help young ladies get through their entire pregnancy and either at the end decide to keep or give up their baby to a family who desperately wants a child.
And there's so many of them. There are thousands and thousands of families out there that are fighting to have children, and yet they're killing. What I say is they're aborting maybe future doctors, future technicians, future plumbers, future electricians, people that they're just aborting them like crazy. So being pro-life, sometimes it's a challenge, it's stressful, etc. What did you tell your friends? Did any of your friends or acquaintances, I would say, you know, Betsy, you should have the abortion?
You know, it's funny because we really didn't. We had the genetic counselor presented the option. I said, that is off the table for us. Please make sure it's in our records that not to come up again. And then because I think our faith is something we live in a very visible, outward way, no one was ever questioning our decision.
Ralph, as you will look at the pictures, carrying the baby into church, living their faith. He was baptized and confirmed. And I say it's a celebration. They have a saint in heaven. They're lucky people, you know, and it's a message that I would hope many people who think aborting children and funding these things, okay? I'm very upset with the politicians that fund these Planned Parenthood, knowing that they're killing kids. But you know what you hear from some Catholics? Well, I would never have, I'm pro-life, but if that lady wants to have an abortion, Sam, as a politician, as a U.S. Senator, I have to fund that. And that's the sad part that we have, you know, which I think life is so important. Betsy and Ralph, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for letting us share the story of John Paul Raphael.
It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful, I want to thank my girl, Marianne Lawhon. She'll be on and talking about some other things. I wish you only the best. Put a word in there for John Paul Raphael for me. Tell him I need some prayers.
Will do.
Okay, we'll see you next time.